Hey everybody, it's hwsteele, and in this video I want to talk to you, actually tell you a story about how I developed psychic powers. That's not a joke, and it is a bit misleading because I'm not really psychic. But there was a point in time where some specific unseen forces, and I'll explain that in the story, started to make enough of an impression on me where I developed a subconscious physical reaction to these unseen forces, and as a result I did something physical that was a result of these unseen forces. Now I know that sounds a little bit confusing, but just listen, it makes sense in a little bit. But I want to relate this to trading. Okay, so here's the story. Many years ago, back when I used to work a regular job, in quotes, I was a maintenance man for a warehouse. And I did that job for 9 years, and way back when the original Samsung Galaxy S phone came out, I got one of them. Those came out way back when like 3G was still the big thing. So it's been a while. I got one of those and I carried it around with me to work, and while I was at work, everywhere I was in the warehouse, I kept the phone with me so it'd be easy to contact. I also had a walkie-talkie, but there were some spots the walkie-talkie didn't work that the phone did work, so that's why I always kept it on my person. Now, I had all kinds of responsibilities there because I was a maintenance man for the building, so I might have to fix racks for the pallets to go into. I might have to replace pieces of a machine, weld something back together, just any number of different things. Work on the plumbing, work on the electrical stuff, just all kinds of different things. So after having this phone for about, I'd say about a month to a month and a half, one day I realized that out of the blue, I was just doing something, and all of a sudden I stopped what I was doing, thought about my phone, took it out of my pocket, looked at it, and then I got a text message. And I was like, wow, that was weird. I didn't think a whole lot of it, but that was the first time I was consciously aware of the fact that I just, without any explanation, thought of my phone, took it out of my pocket, and then I got a text message. In other words, it was precognitive. So this continued where I noticed that I would just out of the blue I might be in the middle of welding something or talking to somebody or fixing lights or whatever. It could have been anything. And just out of the blue, I would think of my phone, pick it up out of my pocket, and I'd get a text message. And this had never happened to me before, but it got to the point where 9 out of 10 times or more, I would just start, I would think of the phone and the text message would come in. Now, sometime after this, I won a safety award for being safe and not having an accident or causing an accident for a certain number of years at this place. And that award was just a little speaker, nice little speaker that you plug into your MP3 player. And, you can listen to it. Back then, it was auxiliary cord because Bluetooth was not as popular as it is now, although it was around. And one day I was listening to music from my phone through the speaker, and I had my phone laying up against the speaker. And then out of the blue, I heard this weird noise, this disturbance in the music that was playing. And I thought maybe the MP3 player was glitching or the file was corrupted a little bit or something. But right after I heard that noise, I got a text message, and I was like, well, that's weird. So I realized that the frequency that the 3G network used, my body was able to pick up enough of whatever it was doing, whatever that frequency was doing to me, where my subconscious learned that every time whatever it was that my body was picking up from that 3G transmission from my phone, that it got to the point where when my body sensed that 3G transmission from my phone to say, go ahead and send the text message, that my subconscious would run its little program and I would start thinking about my phone and take it out of my pocket. I literally would take it out of my pocket without thinking. It was just part of the subconscious thing that was going on. So over a month to a month and a half, because that's about how long it took me to first consciously realize I was doing this after getting the phone, that's how long it took me to develop this. It was just a subconscious reaction. And what I wanted to point out to you is that people who trade the market are just like all the other people out there in that they develop subconscious habits without realizing it in 99.9% of the cases. And basically what's happening is you do something repetitively enough for one reason or another, your subconscious builds a program, and then when that program gets triggered, you do a certain action or you think a certain thing or you behave a certain way automatically because it's your subconscious running it. So when you there's some people who look at charts and they just instinctively know when there's a good setup. And that's because of this same subconscious behavior, like when I was able to, in quotes, psychically know when I was going to get a text message. Because there was nothing psychic about it. It was all physical, normal properties that we can talk about, measure, and everything with a scientific method. But the same thing goes on with trading. And it can be a good habit that you have, but much, much, much more frequently, you're going to have a bad habit develop this way. That's why so many traders fail, is because they have subconscious routines or little programs running that they've programmed themselves with. And every time a certain thing happens in the market, they react a certain way. Now here's the thing, because of the way your subconscious works, when you have a subconscious program that's running, whether it does something good or bad for you, if you don't follow through with that subconscious routine, that little program, you feel like there's something wrong. It's almost like a drug addict would be if they didn't get their drugs, they just get really edgy and go through all kinds of withdrawals with tremendous symptoms. Well, the same kind of thing happens when you don't follow through with one of these subconscious routines. When I realized what was going on with my phone, every time I get a text message or was about to get a text message, my subconscious routine would still fire, but I was consciously aware of what was going on. And so I would not get my phone, but for some reason, and it was because the subconscious routine was running, I would feel like I just had to get my phone. I had to take it out of my pocket and look at it. Even though I knew that I didn't, I would just, I had to get my phone. And now here's the strange thing, and this is where it gets really interesting, I think. I consciously made an effort to not take my phone and look at it when I would get a text message. What had originally happened was my subconscious was able to pick up on the signal from the phone and then associated it with my picking out my phone and getting a text message. So it developed that routine. And then when I realized what was going on, I was able to put enough conscious effort into it to break that routine. And then I guess what happened is my subconscious didn't have anything else to associate whatever signal it was picking up from the phone to. So it stopped. There was no other routine that it developed. So even though I'm sure my body was able to still pick up the signals that my phone was giving to say, go ahead and send the text message, it didn't associate it with anything subconsciously. So my ability to realize that I was going to get a text message greatly diminished. I think it's probably true in all areas of life. You know, they say it takes 3 weeks to make a habit, but this whole thing happened between a month and a half for me, in both cases of developing the ability for the text message, knowing that it was going to happen, and for breaking that habit of having to get my phone every time I felt that. So I don't know, it's probably different for everybody. Everybody has different, it works differently for people in that the amount of time it takes to make habits and break habits, or develop the subconscious routines and break the subconscious routines. But the point is, you can consciously do that. So these bad habits that you have in trading, you cannot reinforce them consciously. instead of, if you feel like you have to get out of the market because you see a certain thing, or maybe you overtrade, you trade way too much because you feel like you just have to be in the market, even though you know you should be waiting for a setup that's a day or two away. You just have to get into the market. Well, you can consciously defeat that to the point where you develop a habit where you don't have that urge anymore because you've reprogrammed your subconscious mind. So anyway, I just thought I would tell you that little story. I was thinking about it because it was brought up on the forum that I have, sort of. I brought it up because of something else that was posted. And I thought, that'd probably make a fairly interesting video. So anyway, I will talk to you again later. I'm going to do another video that talks about synodic cycles, but in a different way. I'm going to do that and either release it tomorrow or this weekend. So until then, I'll talk to you later.